right now I'm actually reading a memoir from Yusef Salaam,
Okay.
who is a member of the Exonerated Five.
Okay.
If you were, I don't know if you saw the Netflix movie about that.
What was the movie called?
It was a 4-part series called When They See Us.
Okay,
On
I think I
Netflix?
saw it in passing and didn't get around to watching it.
Mm-hmm.
You'd recommend?
I would.
Okay.
Are you aware of the Central 5 jogger case? Central Park?
No, I'm not actually.
So I believe it was like 1989. It was maybe a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, this I don't know, trigger warning here, just sexual assault or whatever. But there's this woman who got attacked and assaulted in Central Park one night, right? Kind of the same time these kids were hanging out in Central Park. These kind of just a bunch of black kids from Harlem. They come up to Central Park because, I don't know, they got nowhere else to go. They're just hanging out. They're kids, right? 14, 15, 16.
Right.
And 5 of these boys get accused and found guilty of assaulting the woman, even though there was a whole mountain of evidence that was kind of contrary to that, right? But I think at the time, the DA, wanted to. I don't know. I'm blanking, but they wanted to find somebody responsible for the case. They wanted to put the case away.
That's unfortunately the case in so many scenarios that they don't care if you actually did it. They just want someone. It reflects good on the police force.
Yeah, exactly, right. And so those kids went away for like 8, as long as 8, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, right? And some of them got released on parole, and then they got exonerated in 2007 or something.
Really?
Right?
What brought about the evidence being re-examined?
It was crazy. So one of the kids was this guy, Corey Weiss.
Okay.
And Corey Weiss, he wasn't even there at Central Park. He went with Yusef Salaam to the police station.
Okay.
To just be there to support his friend. And then they kind of forced a confession out of him. And because he was 16, they sent him to Rikers Island. They sent him to an adult prison.
Right.
And that's where I guess he met a guy. Oh, I forget his name. But he met a guy who would eventually admit, after meeting Corey Weiss, admitted to doing the crime. And then he had DNA that matched, I guess, the victim, or the DNA that was on the victim or whatever.
Really?
And that's how they got exonerated. It just
totally. That's right out of a movie.
Yeah. I know. It's just crazy, right?
Yeah.
And
rings somewhat of the Caliph Browder case with a young man being put in Rikers.
Mm-hmm. Is that the kid that was accused of stealing the backpack?
Yeah, and he just wouldn't plead guilty to it. And the way that the system is set up is that you're more likely to be released if you'll just confess to the crime you didn't do.
It's like a fucking game, like the criminal justice system, right? Like with bail and with if I fight it, I might get more time, or if I just admit to doing it, right?
Yeah.
And so this is, in his memoir, he just kind of reflects on his time in prison and, his life before and after, because he likes to stress that, he had a life before and a life after, and just kind of, I want to properly get across what he's trying to say, but it's called Better, Not Bitter, right?
That's the name of the book,
That's
the memoir?
The name of the book. And he talks about taking that experience and growing from it and using his experience to benefit others. He believes he says it's a story of God and his people. Eventually he was, we know the story of Joseph in the Bible, who he had the coat of many colors, and he was sold off by his brothers, and then he worked for the Pharaoh as a dream interpreter until he was accused of... No, I'm messing that up. Excuse me. He was accused of sexual assault.
Okay.
Right? But then I think he interpreted dreams for the Pharaoh or whatever, and eventually he was, found. I went to Catholic school. I should know this. I should know all this shit.
Yeah, no pressure.
But, the point I'm trying to say is, he's just. I don't know what I'm trying to say right now. Fuck, I'm blanking.
Well, it sounds like he's trying to use his hardship to inspire others and help people deal with theirs.
And fight the criminal injustice system, as he calls it.
He's presently still with us?
Yes.
That's good.
He's a public speaker, and, he goes and he talks about kind of racial injustice. And
it was Yusef?
Yes, Yusef Salaam.
Salaam. Very cool. Very cool.
He speaks a lot about it in the context of his Muslim faith.
Very cool. Yeah, it sounded like the language you were using, very religious.
Yes.
In essence,
yes.
Which you do see how powerful that could be for some people to deal with their hardship and even inspire them to get the most out of a bad thing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and it's just I believe there's something out there, I believe that maybe, I hope at least, I have hope that one day it's all going to make sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I hold on to, right? Because I just, I do think there is something to be said about, not believing in anything and kind of just creating your own meaning. But I don't know. That's kind of scary.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think it can have moral ramifications. Mm-hmm. Somewhat, I've noticed among people I know who are very enticed with works of Friedrich Nietzsche and start to think that morality is subjective. But I'd noticed it somewhat impact them for the worse. It can be destabilizing to their moral compass.
Right. Do you believe in an objective truth?
I do, or I believe in trying to get as close to it as we can.
Right. That's something I've wrestled with for a long time, because we talk about, speak your truth, right?
Absolutely.
That's something I hear a lot. Mm-hmm. And that's something I say a lot too, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like maybe there is an objective truth, but because of all of our uniquely crafted, based on all of our lives, our experiences, our beliefs, our upbringings, and our very narrow, it's created a very narrow, unique mindset of our own that makes it very difficult to reach that objective truth.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, and we even have limitations that could be scientifically proven in our perception, right?
Yes, exactly.
Like our memory is quite faulty to a degree and things like that.
Totally. So that way I can meet everybody in the middle, you have your truth, but we're also striving to reach achieve something else, some other kind of, there's what you believe happened, there's what I believed happened, and there's what actually happened.
Yeah, and then we should try to get as close to that as possible, even if it can be disillusioning.
Mm-hmm. And I think maybe that was the idea of the criminal justice system, but I feel like that's sometimes not the case.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Where it makes me think of how, speaking about the way that these things sound well-intentioned, though the measures and actual application could be doing more harm than good.
Yes. Well, I think that's...
Because you may look like you're getting more criminals off the street, but what's that worth when you're putting away innocent people?
When you're putting away fathers, right? You're putting away innocent people, but you're also putting away fathers, brothers, uncles,
children,
friends.
Yeah.
Right. And right, and you're putting them in prison, and then they can never really, even when you're out of prison, right? You can't get a job, you can't vote.
It's made as difficult as possible for you to have a good life afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I would like to look into more I'm not saying I'm a prison abolitionist, but I would like to look into more of that literature.
I think about it a great deal, and the place I always end up in is that to try and assess the issues in the prison complex, particularly in America, I think education is the best place to start, because it should be preventative. Because a lot of people are so severely damaged by the prison system that it's
Yeah.
hard to say how much you can help them. You could actually reform them, because that's clearly not what's occurring
No.
when they leave the prison system.
Yeah.
So if you started with something along the lines of teaching children about human behavior, human nature, and how to work with their own so that they don't end up in positions that they feel that they'd be better off to indulge in the most heinous of criminal activity.
Yeah. It's so difficult though, because like, you know, the reason the reason people are sent to prison is because a lot of these kids grow up in low income neighborhoods,
Have an absent father.
right?
Yeah, for
And
sure.
That's because, and that's, it's this self-repeating cycle. There's
Absolutely.
you go back farther, there's redlining and urban development,
For sure.
right? And a lot, and that creates this. Yusef Salaam talks about this in his book. The kids from these lower income neighborhoods, they go to a place like Central Park because it's
Yeah.
a lot nicer of a park,
Right.
and then they go back to their neighborhoods where, the place that they're living in isn't as nice, or the parks aren't as well kept, right? And it creates a dissonance in their mind, like this is I don't belong here. This is what I deserve, right? For a young child, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that evolves into, something like prison becoming almost a rite of passage.
Yeah,
for
yeah,
young
for
men,
sure. Absolutely.
right? It's all kind of, it's something obviously difficult for us to fully comprehend, right?
Yeah.
But that's something he was alluding to, how it's psychologically damaging.
Yeah, your circumstances becoming the narrative you tell yourself, and then
Yeah.
you weave this self-fulfilling prophecy
Yeah.
of doom of some kind.
100%.
I think that's what happens. I feel like I've personally seen it in people I know who go down the bad path. It's that they never thought they could tell themselves a different story than the one they were given.